Welcome to Slacker Moto Radio with Brad and Addison. Based out of the Pacific Northwest, we're talking motorcycles and the motorcycle community, and we're excited to have this hour with you. Here we go. Welcome back, Slackers. Brad, how are you?
Oh, I am doing great. Now that I can hear you, we are set.
Whew, due to some technical difficulties, we are coming back exactly as we always would.
Yeah, nobody will know the difference.
But we know, Brad. We know.
But other than that, no new work on the KLR, but this weekend's looking like a prime day for it. I did work on getting some more wiring done in the carport. So that way I could be able to plug in a few different things. Still got quite a bit more to do. Want to do the lights up top, but I think I've got a game plan for that, but it'll probably be on hold for a little bit. Got to start collecting some piece parts for it. And then, I don't know, but I'm more excited to hear about some of the news that the rumor mill's been throwing around regarding you and fulfilling my prophecy.
Whoa. We're not there yet, all right?
Okay, I'm just saying. I don't know why you're trying to hold out. Now it's going to be awkward when you start talking about it. I made a nice transition for you. People are going to be turning off the podcast now. Just trying to help you out.
That's true. How would that be different than any other day?
It wouldn't.
No, so it's supposed to be a good weekend. You're going to work on the KLR, or are you going to go figure out how to get a Vulcan home?
I don't know what I'm doing. I really want to get the valves lapped on the KLR, replace those valve stem seals. So I really want to jump into that before another home project hits. And it's coming up pretty quickly. I'm trying to build out custom closet, so I really need to get going on the motorcycle. So I have an excuse not to be in there doing closet stuff that my wife wants. Even though I'd like to see that too, because I won't have to deal with all the clothes and how they're currently arranged. But anyway, that's not motorcycle related.
No, that's fair. That relates directly into your nice smooth transition earlier. That I've been plugging away on trying to make sure I've got a reliable machine out of a new contribution to the DSR.
Okay, well, so you're out. I mean, when you say DSR, I'm assuming everybody listened last week. The dual support.
Talk about
rage
when we created an entire. Oh, come on!
What?
We created an entire new language last week with our discussion on the DSR. The dual sport revolution.
I think you could call it a rage too. Fine. Whatever you want to call it. You're the boss.
I don't know if that's true, but I appreciate you thinking so.
Anyway, so how are you contributing? You started giving out money to everybody that's riding around on DSRs. What's going on here? What are you trying to tell these people?
You already know, but I joined the revolution. I'm part of the problem.
You did donate money to a weird cause, didn't you?
That's basically what happened here. I donated money to somebody else moving up in the cause to a brand new GS 1250, but in return ended up with a brand old DR 650, an old 93. So pre 96, kind of the year that nobody knows or talks about. Seems to fit my personality.
Okay. Yeah, and you told me a little bit about it, but how did you find out about this motorcycle? Because it wasn't just like your neighbor, for one. And then two, kind of general area where you had to go, what that entailed, and kind of where you are with the bike. I mean, give us a little bit more of a rundown.
Oh, we're going story time? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know where else you want to go. It's not nap time.
I wish. Although I hear when we speak, a lot of people think it is nap time, but we'll leave that for another day.
I think that's the only reason why they listen, but anyway.
Hey, a listener's a listener, man. But to get back into story time, we so looking a little bit now. I'm not quite as active, but had kept an eye out on the typical ADV forums, and there's of course each region or location's kind of got its setup where they can see what's for sale and whatever else is
So
going
you're talking
on.
about like
So
Craigslist, or are you talking? I
no,
mean, you
the
get very vague. It's really awkward.
actual ADV forums.
Okay, okay,
I'm talking our classic, what everybody knows, Adventure Rider, right? Is the
okay.
specific forum. But yeah, was just kind of vaguely on that, but actually got turned to it by a good friend of the show, Dennis. Mentioned an old DR that he saw pop up on the kind of the sales section there of the forums. So kind of poked at it a little bit, learned a little bit about it, kind of tried to get as much information that I could from the flea market there. Specifically the gentleman selling it. We ended up touching base back and forth a couple times because it wasn't necessarily close. You're not wrong. It wasn't my neighbor. Ended up being about 130 miles north of where I'm at. So it was a good couple hour drive up to go get it. But after going over kind of what was going on and the symptoms and what his story was, it seemed like a pretty reasonable opportunity to go up and look at it. And although 120 miles to some is the end of the world and back, I really like driving, so for me it was just a fun adventure. I ended up taking my son along with me, and we just went up north and went to go check it out. Right, if it was everything that I believed it would be, then it's an easy choice. If it wasn't, then it was a fun adventure and we'd come home.
Right, but I mean,
No,
the way that it
no harm,
was
no foul.
listed, I know you haven't got into it too much, but the guy had tried to start it and had talked about, and it wasn't startable right now, and he'd ridden it for a while, and I mean, it was one of those listings where it was almost questionable, to say the least, where you'd want to go check it out. But what do you do when you go check it out? I mean, when you saw a listing that said that it doesn't run and you went up there, I mean, how did you decide that, yeah, this is worth going for?
So a lot of it came from, of course, just looking over the bike. There was a number of additions or add-ons or changes to the bike that were made from previous owners. I know he kind of talked about the guy that owned it before him as well, but put certain things on. So just kind of looking at what the bike had, what it came with, the quality of the parts that were on it, right? Obviously, it wouldn't run or start or anything like that, but you could go through and the brakes were good, and it had a newer chain, and the suspension felt right. And, you could tell it wasn't, based on how it wasn't like it was, a show bike or loved and adored in a clean, climate-controlled room. However, it was also not, obsessively abused. It wasn't thrown over and dumped into a ditch. Really looks like the guy did some dirt roads and then did a lot of like street touring on it, which for a DR is pretty minimal use other than a little higher RPMs. So,
right, and the modifications and the updates that you referenced and the things that you saw that were good were not related to the starting. So somebody in the near past had been investing time and money into updating it as if it had been running. Things that you wouldn't be working on potentially unless it was running.
yeah, basically all these upgrades were things that you would do if you were parking it and you had ridden it every day, you were using it often, and it looked like that was the case, that he was using it to tour kind of through the Northwest, go back and forth to different locations, mainly on the road, and was definitely using it a lot. I mean, it has roughly 30,000 miles. It's definitely not a low mileage bike. It's obviously used and loved. But yeah, that's exactly right. A new chain, new brakes, those aren't things you put on when when you don't care about safety or a good functioning vehicle. Those are, items that you upgrade because you're using the bike and you want to be able to stop and go and not wreck. So,
right. Now, did you try to turn it on? Did you try to turn it over, kick it over, or anything else? I mean,
I did. I could tell, it would kind of burp and try a little bit. Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit later about kind of my thoughts on that. But, I tried to kick it a couple times and it seemed like it would want to fire up. It didn't seem like it was, bad. It definitely had, compression. You couldn't kick it without the compression release valve. It was, that's not a quantifiable number, but it also wasn't, a blown valve or anything like that would be catastrophic. So, it was worth looking at that. It was also, a lot of it goes into talking with the previous owner, right? Via text and on the phone a little bit. And our previous conversations before heading up were, it's hard to read someone via the text and phone and not in person. And that's probably one of the things that really makes things more difficult for business and whatnot during COVID. But going there and talking to the gentleman and actually having the conversation about the bike and seeing what he did and all the information he shared and all of that, one, you can generally get a better sense of honesty of what we're talking about. And two, I could very much tell that he did love the bike, right? That he took care of it, that it was something he wasn't getting rid of to flip for a penny, or wasn't getting rid of just to dump on somebody, that he was buying a new bike and just didn't need this anymore. Doesn't meet what he wants to do. He's doing more long distance touring, hence the bigger BMW he's looking to ride.
Right. He didn't want to deal with some of the other networks that he could have used to sell the bike. I think a lot of people probably would have just posted it on OfferUp or Craigslist or some equivalent like marketplace, I guess. But he just wanted to deal with somebody that had been active maybe in the forum, which is kind of cool in itself. But I've seen some pretty decent forums in the past that were all about taking care of their members. And although this may not be taking care of a member, it was making it very affordable for somebody to get involved that wasn't afraid to get a little dirty along the way, you know?
Yep. And it was definitely one of those, situations of being able to have a vehicle to use and love, and not just do something dumb with, or flip for a buck, as well as, that also, as the buyer, gave me a lot more confidence initially, or right off the bat, of knowing, hey, obviously this is a group that you can't really hide later, right? He's an active member as well. And if you do something stupid or in bad taste, that's going to struggle to keep active, or whatever friends or whoever he's made over the internet via the forum. That's going to be a problem, right? If he's doing something stupid. So it allows kind of both of us to be a little more honest, which is nice.
Right.
At least, I don't know, allow is not the right word, but enforces that, right? Reinforces
Sure.
that honesty, to know that, you're not dealing with somebody that, changes their name on Facebook every week to sell something.
All right. So you gave this guy $6,000 for a bike that wouldn't run, and then you rode it home.
Threw it in the truck and drove it home. Yeah.
All
I know
right.
that's not what you meant, but
Okay. Okay. So then that's not the end of the story. I know that. Okay. So you got it home. You got a new bike. Bike one of two, fulfilling half of the prophecy. I'll take that as a win so far. I mean, we're the second month of the year, and you've already bought one of the bikes that I predicted you would. So, okay, so you got a new bike. You get it home. You've spent, half the day or more driving up to get it and back. Uh, so you were able to spend some time over the weekend, though, actually maybe looking into what was going on and trying to get it started. I mean, how did that go, and where did you start?
so yeah, the story definitely grows from here. Basically did some really simple, simple basic items on the bike. For example, drain the fuel, put some fresh fuel in it, and then charge the battery with my battery tender that I've got. So really nothing crazy. Just tried to resolve the initial, right? These are the problems that I'm pretty sure is all that's hindering it from being a reliable runner. That's kind of how the conversation went.
Sure.
And so, I knew I couldn't get the battery to hold a charge or really be a reliable battery, but I could probably get it to keep 12 volts, maybe 13 if I'm lucky, if I just set it on my tender to hold it there, right? Just enough to get it kicked over and have some extra support as I'm trying to kick the bike, because it is kickstart only, but there's some support from the battery there, and adding a little spark to the plugs.
No, I definitely noticed a difference on the KLR. I would have some odd symptoms. So I tried running it without a battery because it also was is
Yes, kickstart
kickstart
only.
only, right? And so you're like, well, I don't really need the battery except for maybe stabilizing the voltage and amperage to lights and other components. But I definitely had some odd symptoms when I would try to run it like that. Usually it would start pretty good, but the biggest issue was like weird things that would happen when you turn on your blinkers and other things. So I ended up putting in a battery after a period of time. I'd considered doing an ultra capacitor or something like that. But okay, so your intent is to keep the battery in there, though. You're not trying to go for lightweight, I'm assuming. Or would that be something that you're going to consider in the future?
No, I intend to have a battery. I think, I've got a dirt bike, so this is the ride to the trails, have it be a reliable
Yeah,
road
but you don't
machine
need
just
a
as much.
battery to do that, is what I'm getting at. And it's extra
To
weight.
do it safely, it definitely helps. To your point, the signals don't work right, or they intermittently work, and the headlights, dim, bright, dim, bright. So it
If you put a
doesn't.
capacitor in there, it wouldn't do that, though.
That's fair. That's fair. But no problems in leaving the battery. We'll go that route. But so yeah. Anyway, got the battery kind of charged up and got some fresh fuel in it, and really kind of spent a few minutes kicking it over, and it ran. Right, not too many
Ooh.
problems. Ran okay. Had it in the just in front of the garage, running for a minute, and at that point, kind of put it away and decided, hey, next moment I get, let's take it out for a spin. So the next day, didn't do any more work, just kicked it over. After a little bit of work again, it's not kicking, as easily as it was new, I'm sure. But I think a lot of that, I guess we were talking about getting into it. A lot of that comes from it is a bit of a game with the 650 high compression, big engine there. You read online or look online at people teaching how to kick over the pre 96 DR 650s. And, it's kind of a song and dance you have to learn with that bike. So I don't think I'm there yet. I still struggle a little. I mean, I can get it running, but it's not easy. It's not first, second kick like the guys that have been doing it forever. Really, I think that just comes with getting the system down and the process down correctly, such that I'm not missing the right top dead center stroke, and right there's tricks to getting it set up so it kicks in one kick
Sure.
that I'm not necessarily hitting that target every time. So there's a little bit of that, but seemed to run okay. So I threw on some gear and went for a ride.
Ooh.
Just rode around town. Nothing far. Right, didn't want to
Full
get stranded
outlaw.
miles from. Yeah, well, half outlaw.
Half.
I was legal,
I think. I think you were 2/3 outlaw. Can I say that?
maybe, but
Okay.
went just around the neighbor, around more than the neighborhood. Went around town and then went to go fill up the tank rather than just the gallon I put in it. Fill the tank with fresh fuel, and then stopped and got some groceries just to have a good excuse to be out on it.
Got some Twin Peaks up
And
there.
that's right. And then couldn't get it running after the grocery store. Just
What?
couldn't. Kicking, could not get the thing to
Okay. Okay. So
start.
you had just got fuel and had turned it off. I'm assuming as you were getting fuel, and then kickstarted
Yep.
it. Ran fine. You went directly from there, a quarter
Went
of a
a quarter
mile or
mile.
something,
Yep.
to a grocery store. You go inside for 20 minutes. You come out. It doesn't start.
And can't start it. Got it started right out of the. So I guess it's a little longer story. Got it started in the parking spot.
Oh. Okay.
Kind of walked it back right, and then headed out, and then got cut off by somebody who backed out right in front of me. Stalled
Oh,
the
that's
bike.
nice.
Lit up the clutch and brakes, but the bike stalled, and then I couldn't get it to run again. Kicking. Some of that may be exhaustion from kicking it a few times throughout the day and me not being used to that. Some of it may be, like I said, the technique. But definitely it wouldn't start easy. I'll say that much.
Okay.
And so, yeah, basically ended up doing the walk of shame, pushing her home. Luckily, we don't live too far from the local store, so
Okay.
it wasn't the end of the world, but definitely an exhausting day. And let me tell you, you don't need a gym membership if you just push your bike around the neighborhood all day.
Oh, you should start doing that regularly.
I thought about it just to get into good shape and be ready for any experience, right?
It's the
I
it's
thought
the
it.
it's the poor man's e-bike, right? Completely
Yeah,
silent.
it's the who needs a Peloton on or whatever that's called.
What?
A Peloton? I think that's what it's called. The Peloton, the new pedal bike revolution or whatever it is that's hitting the workout world. You don't need that. You just push a dirt bike around town.
What are you even talking? You've lost everybody talking about
No,
Pelican.
everyone knows what that is.
Okay.
Write in if you know what that is. Send us a message. Prove Brad wrong.
Okay.
Nonetheless, spent some time. So at that point, bought a new battery. So my assumptions on this were, either carb related. It had plenty of gunk and crap sitting in the bottom of the bowl that had now gotten stuck in the jets or plugged
Oh,
the
it was
needle.
fine. Okay.
Something related to that, to the bad fuel that was in there, or less so bad fuel, but the slime and gunk from 6-7 years of lack of use that there's deposits and whatnot in the bowl of the carb that had floated up and gotten in the way.
Sure.
So there's that thought. My other thought, of course, was that after running it, because the battery is so bad, it's not taking a charge well from the stator, and so wasn't getting that extra support by the end of the day.
Okay, how many amps did it have at the end of the day, or what was the voltage?
I didn't check that. I did check it after,
What?
and it was running 11.8. So definitely wasn't full charge. Should be sitting basically 13 unused in a bike. So
Yeah, you shouldn't have had an issue if it was 11.8. I'll say that.
yeah, but that's after I charged it and let it sit for a day afterwards. So who knows what it was at that time, right? That's I guess what I'm saying is I don't know what it was then,
Yeah,
especially with the
That's
lights.
a horrible experiment. It's useless
I know.
information.
With the key on and me kicking for as long as I did there, who knows how much kept going. Because I did notice about every second it dropped 0.1 volt. So
right now,
at that point, it could
when
have
you
been
turn on the
crazy
ignition
low.
to be able to kickstart it, the headlamp comes on, right?
Correct. Headlamp comes on, tail light comes on.
Right. That's the only thing that's really pulling a bunch of
Yep.
amperage.
But it was, 0.1 per second seemed a bit excessive, such
Yeah.
that it was really pulling a lot of power out of that battery, or the battery just wasn't holding, right? Its amp hour
Okay,
usage
so you
was
bought a new battery
reduced. So got a new battery.
though. Okay, so does it start?
Did the whole setup, did all that, and it started okay. A little difficult to start, but again, I think that's my technique. Rode it around the neighborhood, and for no good reason around the neighborhood, stalled out just after a couple of loops, and was running a bit rough.
Interesting.
So,
And this is
thoughts?
after you've already cleared out the gunk that you found in the bowl.
No, I have not done anything with the carburetor. All I did was install the new battery.
Oh, but
So,
you drained the gunk out of the bowl of the carburetor, though.
if by drained you mean I loosened the drain screw so that it could drip out of the hose, yes. If
You just said that
you're
you were seeing gunk, so I didn't know if that was as a result of pulling the
No, I
bowl
wasn't
apart.
seeing gunk. That's an assumption. No. So next step is I'm actually going to take the carb off and do a cleaning on it. I've got the tools. I've got the mechanism. That's the next step here.
Okay.
Because it definitely at this point is feeling like a fuel and or air concern.
Yeah, but my
Also,
biggest issue with that was that it ran so well. I mean, just trying to think through this, the last thing that I would tell somebody to do at this point would be to check out the carb if they were able to run it really well for, you know, a few hours and it wasn't having any
it
bog
wasn't a
issues.
few hours. It was maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, even still. Unless there was a lot of gunk that was sitting in a
And that's my
sediment in the
thought, that
bottom of
as the
it
fuel broke
that got
everything apart
stored.
and started then sucking it up. Yep. Yep. That was my thought on that. So we'll see. I'll pull it off, see what the bowl looks like. If it's pretty clean, then we're done, and I won't do anything extra than spray a little bit of cleaner in there and call it good.
Sure,
If if it looks like crap, we'll disassemble and fully clean. So we'll see what it looks like.
sure. Okay.
Probably remove the jets and clean those out individually, just because that's easy to do, right? Especially on these bikes where you could actually technically I could do that without pulling the car. It's got the screw at the bottom. I could pull that jet without any real work.
Sweet.
But I'd rather just do the whole. I've got the technique. It's not that hard.
All right, so there goes the Gladiator getting done this year.
No,
Projection.
this is a day's worth of work.
Oh yeah, it sounds like you're done too.
Well, we're almost done. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the other conversation is in that 20 minutes of riding, there was a clear indication that if you ripped the throttle hard, that the clutch would slip pretty bad. And so that's the other thing, that it definitely needs clutch plates at the very minimum, if not, the steel plates in between. So interestingly enough, the full kit with springs and steel plates, incredibly difficult to find. Wear pads, not so bad. So we've got.
This is like looking on Partzilla, or are you trying to look through like?
So this is like an EBC kit. There is a kit for it, but EBC doesn't have it in stock. All of the manufacturers don't have it in stock. My local, Moto Co. here locally can't get one.
But you can buy each of the individual parts through parts.
So from EBC, I picked up the wear plates. If there's no scoring, glazing, or bluing on the steel plates, we'll just replace if they're clearly just worn shot, then we'll just do that. If there's any issues with the steel plates, then from Partzilla I can get factory steel plates and springs for an exorbitant price. So
okay, there's just not kits. Like that's the biggest issue that I have with the KLR is that I can find parts for it, but I can't find easy kits. Like, hey, I'm going to do the clutch. Oh, well, you buy this, right? And Partzilla, the OEM may have had a little bit of that, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to do a top end or something like that. They have a full set of everything that you
Yep.
need to be
Same
able to do
concern. I mean, that's kind of how I started with the lesser known and lesser owned pre 96 DR. Just doesn't have the same, you say DR 650 and everyone's like, man, there's just parts and accessories available everywhere. Well, pre 96 is a slightly different machine and a lot less support there. So
that. How long was it in production? The first.
I was in production with a handful of changes from 90 to 95.
Oh, okay. So that's a lot shorter window. Okay,
A lot shorter window. Yeah, otherwise we're talking, 96 to like 2010 or whatever.
sure.
The 96 went forever. And that's the one that was basically unchanged. Now, this has a different balancer chain setup. It requires a little more work. You actually have to pull the stator cover and then adjust the chain underneath. That's the only way to do it. You're supposed to do it every oil change. So that's another thing, that it could very well be that chain's a little loose.
Oh, I would have
That's an
started
easy.
with that. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, you got to make sure it runs and have a little fun on it first.
Yeah.
That's what gets you excited to do all the rest, right? When you can get it running, you got to at least take
no,
it
no,
out.
no. I think you've done exactly what I would have done. I would have gone through the process of, can I get it to want to start, so that way I can at least hear how it's running, what it's doing, and you've in your 20 minutes, even though at the end of the 20 minutes it was no longer writable, you ascertained a lot of information about how the bike was doing and maybe what it needed, including, oh, okay, we got clutch slippage, we've got maybe some issues with it wanting to stall, we've got a battery problem, like, but I know it will run. And so if I tackle each one of those things individually, I can reduce the number of variables that
Well,
I'm
and
having to deal with.
based on initial tests, right, it's easy enough to test a battery, right? Charge it, check the voltage, make sure it took the full charge. Okay, it got close. It didn't get to 13.2 like it normally will with my charger, but it got to 12.8. And then check it a couple hours later. Oh, whoa, it's dropped to 12.3. Okay, it's not holding a charge. Battery's shot. Known
Right.
issue.
Well, that's only like
Easy
a
enough.
small
Let's get
piece
a
of it.
battery.
Like even doing a draw on a battery, like if you were to plug in a normal halogen bulb and you were to check the voltage of the voltage drop of trying to run that, like if it can't handle that, even though it takes a charge and it kind of holds it, your battery's shot anyway.
Sure.
So there's a couple different scenarios there, but you did the right
Well,
thing.
and
Okay, yeah, yeah,
it was pretty well known. I mean, he was pretty aware. If you turned it on, you could watch the bulb dim
right.
with the old battery. I mean, you could tell that once it had a draw on it, it was quickly losing that power. You let it sit for 5 minutes and you'd have no power left. So there was no question on that. That needed to be replaced, right? Riding it, you could tell the clutch needs some work. So that's an easy enough choice to do, is replace that. You look at a couple other things and you just know that they're normal wear items, right? The balancer chain, a new oil change with filter, air filter cleaning. So, nothing outside of the norm or what would need to be done anyway there, which allows me to know that, run about 5-6 things and we should be basically fully maintained, fully up to where it should be today anyway, plus a couple of wear items from having 30,000 miles, like a clutch. It's not really a shock that a bike that's been ridden a lot of freeway like that would need a clutch about now. 30,000
Sure.
miles, why not?
Yeah.
I'm not, not surprised, shocked, or concerned. And I got, like you said, I got a pretty good deal on it, such that,
Yeah, $6,000.
part of the game.
You got some pocket money left.
That's right.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more of this. I am a little disappointed that I didn't get to hear some more Gladiator results or some of these JTs.
Oh, the front suspension's all done.
Okay, is it put together? Is it running?
Yep. No, for the JT1, front suspension's complete. All new seals, bearings. I guess it doesn't have bearings. Seals, O-rings, gaskets, and a new dust cover. Fully painted, custom, clear coated. It's done, ready to go.
Nice. Okay.
So
okay. So
those
what's
are ready.
next on
The
that
triple clamp is painted. So next is triple clamp's painted. I actually painted and clear coated the frame. All the frame members on that, I got all that done. So yeah, next step is bearings for the triple clamp for the steering bearings, and then mount that up, and I should be able to throw some tires on and have a rolling chassis.
one? Nice.
So that's pretty close, actually. That one's moving along fairly well.
All right. So where's the motor at on that one? Is it still in rebuild?
Nope, motor's done, put back together, sitting on the bench in a bag, ready to go.
In a bag of parts?
Needs oil. No,
Oh, oil.
no, come on, man. There's open intake on it. I'm not going to leave that just sitting on a dusty
I'm
bench.
being facetious.
I gotta
Jeez.
cover that up. You know me.
Okay, so you got electrical on the bike. Is that the biggest hurdle you have coming up?
That doesn't have much for electrical. Basically has a your oh good night. What am I drawing a blank here? Your coils. It basically has two coils, and that's it. I mean, there's not much going on that bike. Kickstart, two stroke. There's not much happening. No lights, no anything except power from the stator up to the coils and from the coil to the spark plugs. That's
Well,
about
to
it.
that point, it wouldn't handle having additional accessories on there with the setup that
No,
you have.
there's nowhere to put it. So yeah, electrical's good there. There's nothing I need to do other than remount everything to where it went.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good.
So yeah, that one's moving. I know we're kind of getting in the weeds here, but that one's moving. And GL hasn't had a ton of work. I actually made some custom badging. That's all coming and ready, so I got to paint that up, and I'll start mounting. I've got bars, new buttons, new controls, right, for the handlebars, so I can start setting up the electrical. I got to make a good tray for the battery and those components first. But that one, that's gonna take some time. That one needs some more, needs some love, still. But yeah, things are moving there. I think more importantly than all of that news, because nobody cares anymore. We just spent a half hour talking about the an old DR650 that nobody else is ever going to buy.
Addison bought
Um,
another bike. Woohoo!
I know everybody's bored of that conversation, but what I want to know is what your thoughts are on Harley right now.
What are my thoughts on Harley? Yeah, I don't really know. I know that they had an event on the 26th. We were like fumbling all over that last week trying to figure it out, but that was, I think we'd already passed the date. There's another one coming up here pretty soon. Sounds like they've got some different um, buzzword programs, if you will, that they're touting, and one of them is Hardwire, and that they're going to have a special segment just for e-bikes. I just don't really know. I think a lot of things are unfolding. I don't think that anything's really horrible. I think a lot of people are pretty disappointed that they've decided to hold off or suspend production and development of like the Bronx and some other bikes. But then there's also some other teasers that were provided at the end of the video segment for those that stuck around on some bikes that may be coming in the near future. So I I don't really know. I'm trying to get a feel for it. I mean, I saw that they changed their dividends, increased that by 650%, which is usually like a really weird thing that a company will do when they're in the stock market. And it's usually like a red flag when they increase that much. So I just don't know. I mean, what do you think about it?
There's just been in the last year. There's been so many conversations and changes and ideas, and they're definitely not sitting on their laurels as much as we would have expected, maybe. But it's also not. I like that you mentioned buzzwords. It's not anything that's necessarily shocking either. They're just making sure that they're still in the news, right?
Yeah,
Things are coming out, and there's yes, we're still going to do the Bronx. No, we're not going to do the Bronx. I think the biggest shock, or maybe not shock, but the biggest thing I took away from the last bit of information was, that there's a whole department and a whole setup now to continue growth of the electric market. So they're planning to really go beyond live wire and push more electrics out. So I think that's good. They're about the only, big lasting OEM, with history in motorcycles that's really pushing the electric game right now. So I think that's cool. Um, but I don't know. It's very interesting, and it makes me almost turn off the Harley switch when they start talking, because I don't, what they say may not come to happen, or what, right? It may change in 3 months. Who knows?
yeah, I know that
So
we've dealt with that personally, you and I, in other areas of our lives, but it really does make it. I mean, that kind of mentality happens for people that are really interested. I mean, that are diehard Harleys. It doesn't matter what's being said; they're going to get excited about anything, and even if it changes, they don't care. They just want to hear something. They want to hear it. For those that are watching it and really just curious and wanting to see what's Harley going to do, I want to get excited about this brand. I want to get involved. I want to get on one of these bikes that they've been talking about, and then they kind of go back and forth. Man, that's not even going to be in my brain. If it takes too long for it to get developed, for it to actually be in production, and be able to go out and sit on it in a production or on a sales floor, then I'm going to start looking at other bikes, right? Maybe you'll hold off if you're really that excited about it. I mean, people do, get really excited and they'll wait. I mean, seen that with Teslas and people buying, early pre-orders for the Hummers, the Hummer EV, and I'm just throwing out a few different examples here, but I don't know how Harley's going to turn this around. But it's pretty young. I know we're kind of being critical with them, but a lot of what we're basing our thoughts about and talking about now is based off of what they were talking about doing last year before they had a big reorganization and vision change, right? And so, as much as I want to think about and compare where they are now with where I thought that they were going, I don't really think that's fair for the company either.
I think that's true, and I'm okay with that. We know that they're going to keep coming out with what sells, right? And we're not going to lose the items that are most sold and loved on a Harley platform, at least at this point, right?
Right.
And so, Harley's going to be Harley, but I want to see something come out new. And I know that, other manufacturers aren't necessarily reinventing the wheel, right? You look at the Trident 660 and it's a 2010 Street Triple with some changes, right? It's not like they're reinventing the wheel with these bikes coming out. There are a couple of new things for Triumph and a couple of new things. Obviously, Cowie, the new KLR coming out. It's not reinventing the wheel. They're not changing the motorcycle game from other manufacturers, but at least they're releasing new stuff that is at face value different than what existed before.
Yeah,
right?
but we say that, and I don't think either of us have been following Harley that closely. There's been a lot of updates like that on their bikes, on their wheelhouse of offerings that do really well in the market. It just happens to be that Harley does not have bikes in all of the segments. And so we're overly critical on them because they don't have something that's following the DSR, and we don't have something that's following the street bikes and other things. And so, and that's what a lot of people are really like. I guess maybe I don't want to say millennials, but people that are maybe a little bit younger, different generation than those that originally, bought into all of these Harleys. Maybe the baby boomers or others. I mean, they're not the generations that we have now that are making the purchases are really open to a vast array of different motorcycles, and a lot of OEMs have some awesome bikes out there, right? And Harley does too. And I'm not trying to put them down, but what I'm trying to say is they've made a lot of upgrades on the Harley. You look at a 1990s versus
Sure.
2020, and although it's maybe the same platform, but there's quite a few differences. I mean, if you look at one aesthetically within the same product line, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's different, right? They've changed this, they've done this, they've upgraded these things. Oh, the HUD is different, right? But what we're wanting, and what I guess the reason why we have this issue right now, where we're even thinking about it, is because there was a lot of hype about Harley was going to do something different. They're gonna join the. How are they gonna join the party? Are they gonna be the guy that's really awkward when he gets there, or is they gonna be like, is that what's gonna get it really riled up and people are gonna get excited and this is gonna, the revolution's gonna take place? And we just haven't seen that, and so people start to, their emotional roller coaster as you're waiting for this to happen. And I think we're just wore out. To your point.
Well, that's 2017. We got the Milwaukee Eights, and that was a big change, right? That, as Harley goes, that was a big adjustment, a new, model year, whatever you want to call it. That changed the game for Harley. But we're now 4 years later, and we haven't really seen anything. The Live Wire was coming out, I guess, so we got that.
Right,
But that
which
was
nobody
roughly
was
around the same time.
really unattainable as far as cost is concerned.
Sure, and it was roughly
And
around that same time.
yeah,
So it wasn't anything that it's been a number of years since we've seen anything, new come out. And they've got enough different products that we should be seeing something new and different. The FXR, I guess that's fair. They had their, well, I think it's the FXR, but their more sporty version came out sometime within there. So there have been a few things, and I think you're probably dead on that there's just not, their lineup isn't quite as vast as some other manufacturers, such that you can't have every year or two something new, unique, and different come out, because you've got 4 or 5 different platforms. So when you've only got that, it's every 4 years, right? It takes twice as long when you've got 4 platforms to release something than it does for a company that's got 9 platforms, right? You can be changing and moving a little quicker, and not can be, you have to be, because you're carrying such a vast portfolio.
Right. And I think generally, if you were to look back, I would say Harley Davidson as a corporation has been very safe and potentially too safe for too long. And what I mean by that is maybe, kind of being slow to the market with something new and taking a long time to develop something, maybe to perfect it. And, or maybe there's other reasons that we aren't aware of, but I mean, they were talking about the live wire in pre 2014, and it took 4 years to be on the showroom floor, and that was already like they were showing videos of it and talking about how the motor was actually going to be loud for an electric bike. So they've just been a really safe company, and I think in some areas maybe that's kind of hurt them because they haven't followed the trends as closely as some of the OEMs. But I don't know, I see a shift coming, and I still am kind of excited to see what's going to come out. It just means that I got to wait another 2 to 4 years.
We will it will definitely get on this topic again. Maybe we should leave some meat on the bones for the next time we bring it up, because we know there'll be some changes. The 22nd is the next release when they're talking about the Pan America, and I think that'll allow us to really kick off a longer discussion on what we know more specifically for these units. So we can kind of look at it then. But
That's
I
right.
think you're right. Things are coming. There's definitely some blood in the water for Harley, and they're trying to go at it.
I know you're going to be watching that. Hopefully, some other people will get involved to provide some feedback on what they think of that. I think you've also got somebody else, that we were talking about interviewing coming up here pretty soon regarding Harley Davidson. Maybe we'll wait till after the Pan America. I know we're planning on air, but while I have
It's
it.
always the right way to do it.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of a heads up that it's coming, and it holds us accountable to it too. So uh, maybe it'd be a good time end of month to try to get that guy on. I think that'd be an awesome guest to
Yeah,
have.
we've got a buddy down in Kentucky does some awesome scrambler adventures and things like that seems to be pretty passionate about these changes we heard about last week. So, um, yeah, you know who you are. Shout out. We'll get you on air, and we'll talk about it. But I think we should save a little meat for that conversation, because I think we may deep dive in there, as well as I kind of want to learn more about some of the events put on in that area. We kind of don't get the same type of off road adventures here in the Northwest, so I've got all kinds of fun discussion topics there. But nonetheless, we appreciate everybody tagging along this week. We don't want to take too much more time and save some stuff for next week. But got some things on the line. We continue to tease that, and you'll actually find out one of these days once we can get out and do some of it here in the Northwest. But look forward to talking with you next week. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure you check out the Facebook page, slackermoto.com, and we'll talk at you then.
Until next time, ride on.